how to get to the post office. And then, characteristic of Billy, he said to Reverend Graham, he said to the little boy, well, if you'll come down to the Baptist church tonight, I can tell you how to get to heaven. And the little boy said, no thanks, you don't even know how to get to the post office. Good rule of thumb for preachers, and I endeavor to follow this myself. It kind of is an oil thing. But anyway, if after 10 minutes you haven't struck oil, stop boring. One of my pet peeves is a pastor who gets people's attention and then bores them. Because God's not boring. God is not boring. And church shouldn't be boring either. Several of you are going to be involved this morning in doing different things. And I don't know that I'm going to do this every time, but as God gives it to me, we'll do it. I like to get you involved. I like you doing things. We're still focusing on adding to our faith. And some of you might think, well, it's kind of preaching the same sermon, so I have a couple stories to tell you about that. There was a Methodist church where the pastor had got up and he preached the message that Sunday, and then he had a bunch of funerals during the week and didn't have time to prepare, so he preached the same message the next Sunday. And then nobody said much of anything, so he preached the same message the third Sunday, and the fourth Sunday, the same message, and finally, his council got together and went to their bishop, and they said, Bishop, he's preaching the same thing every Sunday. And the bishop said, well, what did he preach? And none of them can answer, and so he said, I think he needs to preach it one more time. And that reminds me of yet another pastor who got up and preached a message. Next Sunday, preached the same message. Third Sunday, same message. Fourth Sunday, same message. And finally, the first Sunday, the people were like, great sermon, Pastor. Next Sunday, it was the second time they heard it, and they were like, that was a good sermon, Pastor. And then, good day, Pastor. And finally, by the fourth, one of the deacons walked up to him and said, when are you going to preach another sermon? He said, as soon as you start practicing what I'm preaching in this one. Wow. When I think about that, and I think about today, what we're talking about, we've been talking about adding to our faith. We're in 2 Peter chapter 1, and it says that God has given us all these wonderful promises, and by these promises, we're able to participate in the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that's in the world through lust. And with this in mind, add to your faith. And he goes on to list a bunch of different things. First thing, we talked about faith for several Sundays. And then we talked about adding to your faith goodness. And we talked about how goodness was moral excellence and it was good, clear, clean motives. And then we talked about adding to that goodness knowledge. And we talked last week about different kinds of knowledge. And I have to tell you, my Chinese son here, he said, we got home, we were eating lunch today, and he said, he said, of all the sermons you preached, he said, I think that's going to be the hardest one for him to understand. And I said, why was that? He said, well, because it kind of sounded like philosophy class. It was very acute and very listening, paying attention. I appreciate that. But I think you got the major thing. I didn't want you to remember those Latin words. I did want you to remember that there are 3 levels of head knowledge and 3 levels of experience knowledge. And when we understand that real knowledge is the knowledge that changes our lives, and real knowledge is the knowledge that makes a difference not only in my life, but in the lives of other people, that makes it real simple. And so today, we talked last week about how we need to prioritize our relationships to gain knowledge. Today, we're going to talk about prioritizing obedience. How many of you know what obedience is? Okay, some of you don't. That's okay. You'll find out by the time. Yeah, I know. Every church that I've pastored, every church I've preached at, I have some people that just will not raise their hand when I ask for a response. And I ask them, why? Why don't you raise your hand? Because they say, we're afraid of what you're going to do with it after we raise our hand. I just want to make sure you're here and that you're paying attention and you're following with me. Because, if you come in and you go to sleep, I had a pastor friend of mine who was preaching over at Brook Hill. And by the way, I have some friends from Brook Hill this morning. Good to see you guys. He said, you know what you would get if you took everybody who fell asleep in church and laid them end for end? And everybody's thinking, like, what is this? He said, a very long line. Well, I don't want you to go to sleep, because if you come and you want to get something and you go to sleep, all you get is a good nap, and you can do that at home. And so I want you to see God is important enough for us to obey. And we need to prioritize our obedience. And we talked last week about this knowledge that we added, and it being not a knowledge that's complete. The only person that has complete knowledge is who? God. God's the only one. God has such complete knowledge that He can never learn anything. How about that? Ponder that for a couple of minutes. We can always learn something, and I can always learn from anybody if my attitude's right. You can always learn from anybody if your attitude is right. And so this knowledge comes through relationships, and we talked about the 3M and the 2M last week. Do you remember my little M&M guy that my son put away, and we had to find him at the beginning of the service? And the 3M's that I had on paper, anybody remember what that stood for, the 3M's? Yeah, okay, that's right. I'll remind you, because I know what it's like. Sometimes I don't remember what I preached last Sunday. That's okay. I'll admit it, okay? But the 3M stood for macro and micro ministry focus. The macro and micro ministry focus, the 3M focus, is souls. Which means the big picture of what we should be doing as a congregation and as a church is to reach souls. But it means also that when I'm having one-on-one interaction with somebody, my focus ought to be souls. And everything that I'm doing is focused on bringing people into that knowledge of Jesus Christ. And then the 2M's, the M&M, stood for making my personal relationship, your personal relationship, maintained and meaningful. You remember I talked to you about my beautiful 1980 Mercedes-Benz 300D, and how I didn't understand the importance of maintaining that, and I lost a prize vehicle. In my mind, it'll always be one of the most beautiful vehicles I ever had, but I don't have it anymore because I didn't maintain it. Our relationship with God has to be something that is maintained. We plant the seed and the seed grows if we water it. I heard about a guy who was a baker in a city. And this baker, and maybe we have some bakeries around here like this, but it's kind of like the Krispy Kreme. How many of you think Krispy Kreme is like the next thing to heaven? Okay, you wouldn't want to admit that, but that's all right. Some of you do admit it. Thank you for your honesty. But just imagine if there were a local baker and he made treats and he made donuts and pastries that were as good as Krispy Kreme, and people would flock from all around. They would fly into the airport and come just to buy his stuff. And then one morning, there's this headline in the paper or on Fox News: local baker found dead. What was the problem? You start to read, and you find that this baker had gotten so busy feeding other people that he neglected to feed himself. He was what we would call the starving baker. And sometimes Christians do this, especially Christians who are in ministry. Christians in ministry sometimes focus all of their energy and their effort on other people instead of maintaining and keeping meaningful their own personal relationship to Jesus Christ. And that's where we've got to focus, folks. You know, it's like, how many of you have ever been on an airplane? You're on an airplane, and as you're taking off, the flight attendants begin to talk to you. And they tell you that in the event of a depressurization of the cabin, if you're seated by a child, what do you do? When those oxygen masks pop down, what do they tell you to do? Put yours on first, because you're no good if you're passed out, and you might be trying to get the kids on, and out you go, because the kid will come back if you put the thing on there, but you've got to take care of your breathing first. I love what happened to Patty this morning. She was up there, and the light kept following her. And I thought, oh my goodness, isn't that just like Jesus? He's not going to let you go. You shine a light on you, and you're like, I'm going to move. And he's like, okay, let me move. Okay. He shines a light right on you, and you move over here, and he shines a light down on you again, and you can't get away from him. You know, I'm a firm believer that God lets things happen for a reason, even when it's light coming in the window. He's after all of us, and he wants us in the time that we have to focus on our relationship with Jesus. And today we're talking about prioritizing obedience. And so what we're going to do is, one of the things that we're going to do, I'm going to have you guys, all of you as a congregation are going to help. And we're going to divide kind of right down the middle here. And you guys are going to be the first half. And then you guys right here are the second half. Now I want you guys to repeat these words with me. 5 minutes of obedience. Say that. 5 minutes of obedience. Okay, now, this half are going to say 10 years of study. Okay? 10 years of study. So, every once in a while, I'm going to look at you, and I'll start something, and then you will finish with 5 minutes of obedience. So, here's how it's going to go. You can learn more in
5 minutes of obedience
than in
10 years of study.
That's going to be a major part of our message today. And you're going to help. And I hope when you leave here, you'll remember. This is a quote by one of my favorite devotional writers. His name is Oswald Chambers. Nobody can quite write a devotional the way Oswald Chambers did. He just has an insight into spiritual life and spirituality that I try to read other devotionals, and I almost always come back to Oswald Chambers. And he's the one that said, 5 minutes of obedience, you can learn more than in 10 years of study. Now, why is that? And I've got some other people that are going to help me out. And so there's 3 reasons why you learn more in 5 minutes of obedience than you do in 10 years of study. So who has the A that I gave out?
Obedience proves relationship. You are my friends if you do what I command. John 15:14.
Obedience proves relationship. Why is it that obedience for 5 minutes can teach you more than 10 years of study? Because obedience proves my connection with the Master. That's the most important thing. I get frustrated. I get frustrated when I hear people preaching and teaching and advocating that you can know Jesus Christ and not connect with Him, and not read the Word, and not take time and pray. You ladies that are married or dating, let me see hands. You're out there? Good, you're here. How many of you would accept this kind of scenario? Danny comes up to Marie. They haven't gotten married yet. And he says, Marie, I want you to be my girl. I want you, I'm not going to date anybody else. You're the only one. But I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with you. But I want to be able to say that you're my girl. And you say, would you agree to that? And I have not told her I was going to ask her this question, but I'm going to ask her, would you have agreed to that? Now, this is, and we understand it when it's in a human relationship. But we don't understand it when we transfer it over to our walk with Christ. Because some people, they want to say, Jesus, I want you to be mine, I'm going to be yours, but I'm not going to tell anybody about it, and I'm not going to spend much time with you, but I still want you to be mine. I don't believe that that happens. I think they're fooled. I think they're kind of deceived, because obedience proves relationship. But there's a second reason why 5 minutes of obedience is more, it teaches more than 10 years of study. And who's got my B? Okay.
Obedience proceeds from love. If you love me, keep my commandments. John 14:15. And this is love, that we walk in obedience to His commands. As you have heard from the beginning, His command is that you walk in love. 2 John 1:6.
Obedience proceeds or flows out of love. I'll get you guys in a minute, don't worry. They're going to do something else for me later on. Obedience flows out of love. It proves a relationship, but it comes out of love. And then there's a third reason why obedience will teach you more in 5 minutes than study for 10 years. Who's got C? I think that's here.
Obedience produces knowledge. If any man will do his will, he shall know knowledge of the doctrine, whether it be of God or whether I speak of myself. John 7:17.
Did you get that? Obedience produces knowledge. If any man will do his will, he will know, or he shall know of the doctrine, whether I speak of myself or whether I'm speaking from God. He will know. Obedience produces knowledge. So it wasn't just what Oswald Chambers says, it's actually in the Word of God that when I obey, I learn. And I get knowledge. And so those are the reasons why obedience is so important. And we're going to hit a few things this morning and try to understand. So the reason that we need to prioritize obedience, we've already got that. But there's obedience first, I think we call it of denying ourselves. How many of you know what our culture would say about self? Anybody? What does culture say about self? The United States culture, what does it say about self?
If it feels good, do it.
If it feels good, do it. What else does it say?
Do it your way.
Do it your way. What else? It's me, 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 me.
Self-gratification.
Huh?
Self-gratification.
Yeah, I should gratify me. McDonald's has been really good at putting together things that express this. You deserve a break today. That's an old one. That tells you how old I am. They haven't been around for a while, okay? But then, have it your way was one not so long ago. What is it right now? I'm loving it? Okay, I'm loving it. So all of these things, I mean, McDonald's, if you want to know what the culture is saying, just look at the themes that McDonald's has got. And, you know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, it's just they express it very well. They express what our culture thinks. But Jesus said in Luke 9:23, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. And so if I'm going to be obedient, I need to deny myself. Now, instead of deny, our culture says you deserve. Instead of deny, they say get. You ought to have this. You must. Jesus said, I've got to make a choice to say no to what I want and yes to what God wants. Not only do I need to make a choice, even if I feel like it or not. How many of you have ever made choices that you didn't feel like making? You ever make choices? And yet we do it, and you know, if you do what you know you should do, it won't be too long till you begin to feel like doing what you should do. But you can't wait for feelings to make it happen. It's got to be a choice first. Jesus said, deny yourself, then take up your cross. Implying that I haven't taken my cross, I haven't died yet, but I'm making choices that I deny myself. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to let myself die on the cross with Jesus. Galatians 2:20. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life that I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. That's what happens when we go to the cross. And then he says, and then come and follow me. Now that's something, again, this is going to give away my age, but there was a real movement, probably 15, 20 years ago. Some of you may say, no, Pastor Greg, it was longer than that. It might have been longer than that. But the WWJD, how many of you remember that? It kind of went around, you know? And then they came out with, they had to be really funny, and they was like WWBD, what would Buddha do? You know, or some of these other ones. But the essence of the question is still valid. What would Jesus do? If I'm going to follow him, I've got to do what he's doing, okay? So what are some areas of self-denial? I think somebody in our college group is going to help out. Give me one area of self-denial. Who's got the paper? There we go. To get even or pay back. How many of you have ever wanted to get even with somebody else? How many of you have done it? Confession time, okay? It doesn't really feel as good as it did when you thought about it, huh? It's like, oh, that didn't fulfill me like I expected it to. But God said, vengeance is mine. I will repay, says the Lord. Now, the problem that we have with God is that God doesn't do things as quickly as we think He ought to. We want Him to, boom, let Him have it right now. And God takes His time. And so we have to deny ourselves. The second one would be what?
Holding grudges.
Holding grudges. Oh, any of you ever held a grudge? Okay, anybody's, I'm going to ask you, you're still holding one, but it's hard to admit if you are. But ask yourself that in your heart. Are you holding a grudge? You can again deny yourself. Jesus said, forgive, as I forgave you. Forgive. What's number 3?
Pride or being right.
Pride or being right. Oh my goodness. Do you know, I heard this about pride. Pride is the disease that makes everyone sick except the person that has it. And it's true. It's so true. And do you realize, too, pride is one of those things that, unfortunately, we often don't even know that we have it. You know, they tell us that there's all kinds of different diseases that are out there right now that people have, and they don't even know they've got it. And, I mean, that's a really encouraging thing when you're listening to the news and they say, you know, there are X number of thousands of people in the United States infected that don't even realize it. But God needs to get a message across to us telling us that with reference to pride, many of us are infected and don't realize it. And I can tell when I'm not willing to learn something from the least of these, my brethren. No, I don't need that. What do they know that I don't know? I mean, have they spent as much time studying God's Word as I have? And you know, we don't.